Alrighty, folks, we're going to take something hot off the wire. Yes, in the last 30 minutes or so, we have learned that small business optimism hits 11-year low as inflation fears won't go away. We're going to have this conversation with the one and only Anna Kelly. Anna, should we be concerned about what small business thinks and the fact that inflation won't go away?
Absolutely, we should be concerned. It's a big section of the economy and GDP and GDI. So it's definitely something important. And quite frankly, I'm surprised, Michael, that we haven't seen more data and stats about small business sentiment. Most of it's been, big bank sentiments or people's sentiment or Wall Street. But what about Main Street, which is largely made up of the small businesses, to your point?
Absolutely. And according to this article, folks, you can find it on CNBC. It just came out. Over a quarter of the respondents actually highlighted that labor costs are their most pressing issue. And of course, labor costs are important. We actually have real income growths now, but there's still this lingering wage spiral inflation. I'm sure that we've talked about it over the last couple of years. At least according to small business, it hasn't gone away yet.
Absolutely. And, even those numbers about real wages, although they're increasing, they're not increasing at the same, tick that inflation has. So when you look at inflation adjusted wages where we are today versus how much inflation has gone up cumulatively since pre-COVID, people are still making a lot less money than they're having to spend just on basic food and goods. And so when that starts to happen, Michael, people demand higher wages to be able to, keep up with the cost of living. I was reading an updated stat earlier this week. I think it was actually it was Sunday or Monday. My days all start to kind of run together, but essentially cumulatively food has increased by 25 to 36%,
I saw
depending
that.
on what it is that you're eating. And when people are spending 40% of their income now instead of 32, 35 on their housing and their rent, plus their food is up that much, most people haven't made 25 to 36% increases in their wages. And so the wage demands have definitely, kicked up, and that impacts small businesses. So I've seen multiple news articles of companies that are just shutting down their doors because they cannot afford to pay, these wages that are being demanded. My 15-year-old, just to give you a couple of examples, was like, Mom, I'm going to go work at Sheetz. It's a gas station. I can make $19 an hour plus benefits at 15, to
Wow.
work at a gas station. I saw another pizza company that just shut their doors because of the new $20 minimum wage in California. And so, when businesses are having to pay higher wages and people just need higher wages to stay at their jobs to keep up with inflation, that has this impact ultimately of reducing profits of small businesses. And most small businesses are not extremely profitable anyway, Michael.
No,
So
single
when you've
digits,
got
single digits.
their
Yeah.
insurance costs going up, their lease costs, a lot of them lease space instead of own the buildings that they're in, and lots of other costs going up, and their wages, their input costs are higher than what they can keep up with raised prices at this point. And so, I have real concerns that we're going to see a lot more small businesses start to close their doors, just like we're starting to see record high since the GFC, large corporations declaring bankruptcy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You brought up the California $20 wage, and I'm glad we went there because that's going to prove to be a case study, right? That went into effect April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. And by April 2nd, we saw two different behaviors. One, we saw companies shut their doors. It's like, can't make it work, close, lay people off. Two, we saw some chains simply raise their prices.
Right.
And this is how this works, right? If you have to pay more, you have to raise your prices, right? To your point, margin, aka profit, is not unlimited like a lot of these socialists think it is. And for a
Right.
lot of these small companies, it's single digits. So if you take
Absolutely.
your largest variable cost, which for most companies is overhead, and you add 15% to the overhead, you either shut your doors because you're losing money or you raise your prices. Those are the only options, right?
Yeah. And it's probably even more than 15% because they're also paying taxes on those wages. And
That's true.
oftentimes they're paying
Yeah.
benefits on those wages. So the more they're paying, the more the taxes and the more the cost of having that employee goes up more than just the new wage that they're paying. And so it's a significant nut. And it's really what causes wage price spiral inflation, which the Fed
Exactly.
has wanted to prevent and try to get under control. The solution for that is more unemployment. And so only when you start to have more unemployment where people can't quite demand higher wages do you start to reverse that wage price spiral. But what's going to happen is one of two things, and I think they're both going to happen together for a while, is some companies are going to do just what the pizza shop did that hit the news this morning. They're going to say, we can't make profits, we're done. And
Right.
they're just going to shut down. There's also less people spending eating out now. It's
Yeah.
starting to pull back. So, services sectors like restaurants that saw big wage increases, but lots of kind of rebound spending post-COVID, let's just go enjoy ourselves. That spending is starting to slow down, in a lot of services areas. So when you have both the input costs going up, what you can charge and how many people are actually going to buy those goods start to come down, you reach this, very tight squeeze on profits from both directions. And companies just can't keep up for very long. So I think that initially you're going to see these raised prices, and some people that can are still going to spend the money, and those that can't won't. But eventually it's going to lead to layoffs and small businesses shuttering their doors. And this is eerily like what we started to see in early 2008. And again, I'm not calling for a new great financial crisis, but these are the kind of things that you start to see as an economy starts to peak, and then it starts to, come down and contract on the other side.
Yeah. I really think it's interesting because the headline says it's the lowest in 11 years. And I mean, think about 11 years ago, right? That's like 2012, 2013.
What's
We
the
were
lowest in 11 years? Sorry.
small business sentiment. Small
Oh,
business
okay.
sentiment is
Yes.
the lowest in 11 years. And again, coming out of that was right when we started coming out of the GFC, right? It's you started to have a foundation. And
Mhm.
the other thing to think about is I really think, and I don't have the data at my fingertips, so I could be wrong, but I believe small businesses, those that employ less than 50 people, um, are the lion's share of the economy. Yeah, we always talk about the Apples and the Googles and all of that, but when you really look at Main Street, it's the small business. And if we lose 15-20% of small businesses, that's a problem. And here's the other thing to your point. When I play this out in my head and with understanding basic economics, raise prices. That forces that forces 15% of pizza shops to shut down. The ones that stay open have some kind of efficiencies, or maybe they own the building, so they don't have rent spikes. Maybe there's all of that. They're just going to raise prices because they have less competition. So the stronger will get stronger, and the weak will disappear. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that's just capitalism.
But look at your mom and pops, right? We just spent, and I'm still frugal, right? Even though we
Yeah.
we make good money, we're very picky about where we spend our money and where we don't. I ordered pizza this weekend, Michael, 3 pizzas from Domino's. It was $60 for
Wow.
3 pizza and delivery because we had just gotten back from out of town. We didn't feel like going and driving. $60 for 3 pizzas. And these are like, they're large,
Yeah.
but their large gets smaller.
Those are the
So this is
large
the other
mediums.
this is the other thing that happens with inflation. They pull back portion sizes and
Shrinkflation.
they
Yeah.
raise their prices. But at the same time, I feel for them because I know most of these shops lease their space. And I
Yep.
can guarantee you, I'm in the commercial, business and in real estate, because interest rates have gone up and most people that own these standalone or shopping center areas where lots of small businesses lease space,
Yep.
their costs have gone up significantly because they've had to roll
Yeah.
over to a new interest rate. And so I can guarantee you that most of these small businesses, I don't know what percentage, but I know a large percentage
Yeah.
lease space rather than own. And so I know their leases are going up at the same time that their utilities are going up, at the same time that their wages are going up. It's going to be really, really tough for a lot of these businesses to survive. And if, to your point, they're in an area where there's multiple options, it's going to be hurt even more. And so while your big cities, your financial centers, I'm going to say, you know, I'm from Houston, Texas. It's a very big city, but there's lots of job diversity. So there's no one sector that has a significant amount of the jobs for a population. But when you go into the smaller cities where most of Americans live, you know, where the mom and pop lives, that have these businesses, you rely on small businesses to keep the economies going. You know, I think about Hershey. So I'm right outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania. There is quite a bit of job diversity, but you know, you've probably got 10% that are trucking and manufacturing. What happens when these small trucking businesses, you know, don't get all the shipments of Amazon orders all the time and they start to go under, like we're seeing trucking businesses go under? That could be 10% unemployment for your area because
Absolutely.
that one small business sector in your small town gets hit pretty hard. And so I think it's a bigger deal and has a bigger impact on employment and the health and growth of smaller cities than what the headlines tell us when you look at just the nation overall.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny you brought up rent. This article, again, find it on CNBC. It actually highlights right at the bottom. They're planning for rent increases of 8.7% in the next 12 months. Again, folks, if the owners of the strip malls had to refi debt from 2 to 7, that cost is going somewhere. So yeah, inflation is a problem. Small business impacted, wage spiral inflation, perhaps less competition. This is just how I guess capitalism works. So yes, I do agree. We got to watch what's going on with small business. Anna, where can people find you?
Just one final thought, Michael, if you
Sure.
don't mind. This is how capitalism works when the Fed manipulates rates and creates bubbles that then start to come down. So
Well said. Well said.
that's the reality. We don't have true capitalism that just lets market forces play out. We have forced wages, forced increases of interest rates, et cetera. So it is what it is. We're you know, we have to deal the hand that's dealt
Yeah,
to us,
we got to play the game in
and
front of
play
us.
the
Yep.
hand
Yep.
that's in front of us. But I think, you know, to your point, just kind of the so what to kind of bring this back is if you are a small business, you need to be thinking about how you can get more lean, and keep people employed. And it's going to be tough. But if you are in a position to be able to maybe even think about buying a small business that's struggling, that you might be able to help, there could be real opportunity there as well. So
I agree.
for those that want to say we're being doomers, we're being realists, but there's always opportunity. So look at these things and say, how can you help other people out of the real situation that they're in, and maybe come in and create profits while also
Yep.
helping other people to bring their businesses back up. So you can find me here every week on your show, social media, Anna Kelly, REI Mom, and my website, AnnaKellyInvesting.com.
Thank you so much.